good evening, everybody. This is my first episode of Breaking the Cycle, where I talk about how childhood trauma and addiction correlate. This is my first ever time doing a podcast, so I do have my script off to the side right here. I do apologize if that bothers anybody, but I do need, some guidelines to go through. This is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. Um, and so I really hope you guys enjoy all the information that I will be giving throughout the 3 episodes. I am doing this in my bedroom because I wanted it to feel very comfortable, very cozy, very laid back, because the topics that I am going to talk about are very sensitive, and I don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable. So, let me give you a little explanation of what this podcast is going to include. In this first episode, I will be discussing exactly what abuse does to a child's brain and touch on what the brain looks like on addiction, so to speak. This is my first ever time doing a podcast, and it's been much harder than I had anticipated, so bear with me. This podcast will consist of 3 episodes broken into 2 segments. This is the first segment, and it is the informational part. The second segment will be where I bring on a guest to interview them, and have them share their personal experience with either childhood trauma or addiction or both. I specifically have one guest, my guest that did not struggle with childhood trauma but fell into addiction. My second guest will be my guest that did experience childhood trauma but did not fall into addiction. And then my third and final guest will be somebody that that had childhood trauma and fell into addiction. I did this to show every aspect of childhood trauma and every aspect of addiction. Now, this podcast is specifically how they correlate. So that is the main focus, but of course, addiction is much deeper than that. A couple disclaimers before I actually get into the real meat of this podcast. There will be heavy mentions of child abuse, um, including but not limited to physical, sexual, mental, all of the above, really, and heavy mentions of addiction, specifically substance abuse. That's what the main focus of this research project is substance abuse, not necessarily like gambling or sex and behavioral addictions. It's more physical substances. So if that's too much for you, maybe this podcast is not for you. But yeah, if you're interested, then keep listening. My teacher will have to keep listening, so hi. Um, Many people believe that child abuse means just physical, but that's far from the truth. While physical abuse is a horrible thing and most definitely contributes to childhood trauma, it is not the only thing that contributes to childhood trauma. Abuse can be anywhere from mental, physical, sexual. Um, it can even be a guardian or parent putting their insecurities on you. Um, that is abuse. So, yeah, trauma can be anywhere from a parent getting a divorce or, as serious as molesting a child. Abuse causes physical change to a child's brain. It damages the prefrontal cortex, the amygdala, and the hippocampus, and these are all parts of the brain that help with decision making, regulating your emotions, and even your memory. So it is very crucial that these parts of the brain develop correctly, and the abuse and the trauma that a child may experience hinders the brain from developing properly. When these parts of the brain are altered, it changes how a child develops entirely. They will lack the proper tools to resolve issues when they are put into stressful situations, even just simple decision making, and they won't be able to regulate their emotions fully, and may even shut down when they are faced with real world problems or even just simple problems, because their brain is literally physically changed due to the trauma that they have endured in their lifetime. When crucial parts of the brain are damaged during development, it heightens risks for mental illness. And the main mental illness that we will be talking about is addiction, because addiction is a mental illness. A child's brain begins to lack the necessary chemicals in the brain to develop a healthy brain. Um, and it craves things such as more serotonin, more dopamine, those, happy chemicals you hear about. Sadly, drugs are the fastest way to satisfy that craving. Um, because most kids that are being abused mentally, physically, sexually, whatever it may be, do not have the specific, like the outlets to get therapy and get maybe medicated like they should be. Um, they don't have that opportunity to get the help that they need. So, drugs are the easiest and the fastest way to get their brain to satisfy their brain with the craving that they so badly need. Um, Most kids are exposed to drug use, whether it literally be from DARE, which is supposed to be a program to, prevent you and stop you from doing drugs, um, or actually seeing a family member or hearing about a family member with addiction. Either way, kids are exposed to drug use, whether you hide them from it or not, and the kids that experience the abuse um, are more likely to have easier access to drugs. Um, it is important to keep our kids safe and healthy. Um, you do not need to provide materialistic things to make your child happy. You just need to offer them your love and your support as a mother, father, guardian, whatever you may be to that child. Um, you need to love and support them and let them know that you are there for them no matter what happens. Um, and I know that kids that are in abusive households do not necessarily have that, um, but it's just really important that you give a child love and support. And listen to someone if they express concern to you. Don't invalidate their feelings. You never know what somebody may be going through. So, as I like the saying, if you see something, say something, but do it privately, because the system is really, really fucked. Like CPS and foster care, it's a very, very messy system. Um, from experience, it's quite atrocious. So if you see somebody struggling, just try and find the best way to help them, but in private. Don't make a big scene, don't make it public. Um, so many teens I know turn to drugs to numb their pain from the trauma that they have experienced. Um, and I have been saying like children, but this literally ranges from like, as the next episode will talk about, it ranges literally from birth to 18 years old. Um, but again, 16 is, still a child. So I do want to just clarify that a little bit. For now, that concludes the first episode of Breaking the Cycle. I really hope you guys enjoyed and learned something new, maybe. Um, and useful. And I will see you guys in my next episode where I talk about the science behind adverse childhood experiences and the statistics behind it, along with what addiction actually is. Um, but yeah, and as always, all my sources for my information will be linked below. This is a research project, so I did everything that I'm saying I have researched. And so that will be all the sources for the information I have just stated will be linked in the description or on the screen, but I think it'll be linked in the description for sure. So yeah, thank you guys, and I cannot wait to see you in my next episode of Breaking the Cycle. So that is all you will see from me and all the information you will hear from me in this episode. But this episode is not over. You will see my guest literally in like 5 seconds. But I really hope you guys enjoyed, and I really hope you guys learned something, and I will see you in my next episode. But I really hope you guys enjoyed the guest that is going to arrive. Thank you. Good afternoon, morning, evening, or night, whenever you're watching or listening to this. This is episode 1 of my podcast, Breaking the Cycle, where I'm speaking on how childhood trauma and addiction correlate. Now, I have never done a podcast before, so I will be reading off of a piece of paper. If you are just a listener, then you will not see me look at the paper, but if you are a viewer, then, well, you'll be seeing me looking down at the paper. So, as I've stated before, these podcasts are filmed in two-part segments. In the first part, I gave y'all the hardcore information on how the brain looks on drugs and what abuse does to a child's brain. And the second part is where I bring my guests on to talk about their personal experiences, and we are in the second part now. A couple disclaimers before I introduce my guests. Their name will remain anonymous for this segment to ensure their safety and privacy, and they have completely consented to all the questions I'm about to ask them. This segment of the podcast will be much heavier than the informational part, so just a content warning, there will be heavy mentions of addictions, which may be sensitive to some. So if you're not in the mindset to listen to a real life experience of addiction, please leave now and take some time for yourself. All the information that is about to be stated is someone's own personal experience with addiction and does not represent every addict out there. This is also my guest that did not have any childhood trauma but did fall into addiction somehow, and you will hear that story. So, again, if any of that just sounds like it will be too much for you, please take some time for yourself. Really take care of your mental, because that this is a hard topic for some people to listen to. But I am just here to give information and hopefully help people in active addiction or people recovering from addiction. So please enjoy. Hello, this is my guest. Say hello.
Hello?
Okay, and he's going to answer some questions for us. The first question I would like to ask you is, would you mind describing your childhood to the best of your ability?
Yeah. My childhood was uh, pretty normal for the most part. I had two siblings. I'm the youngest out of them. Uh, I don't remember a lot of my childhood, probably due to the past drug use. But whenever I think about it, it's all good. All the good parts is what I remember. So I don't really know if that's good.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. And how did you fall into your addiction?
Okay. Um,
You can take as long as you need.
I was at a point where um, I felt apart from my entire family. I felt apart from everybody, even my friends, which I'm not friends with anymore. They were terrible friends. Um, but I felt so apart from them that it made me lonely to the point where I needed an escape from reality. And so I had something happen in my life around the age of 12 that left me questioning my safety and the world around me. It made me very angry that I couldn't do anything about it or anything to the people that did it to me. And that made me unable to let go of a lot of anger around that. And that was a bad time. And during that time, I had to find other means to feel apart from reality and my feelings and how helpless I felt. So around 13 or 14 was whenever I first started doing drugs. And a lot of people have a story of how they went from like weed to edibles and then maybe a muscle relaxer or whatever. But I just went straight into like substances like Percocet and Xans and things like that. Um, like I had my first pill before I smoked weed at all, or had even my first cigarette.
Thank you. And are you currently in active addiction?
No, I'm not. I'll be in September a year clean.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. What helped you get sober? Like, or why did you get sober?
It was a decision I had to make not just for myself, but for the people around me, because I wanted to be at my best and at my fullest for them. Because I realized that in order to help people, I needed to be taking care of myself, and it wasn't working out with how often I did drugs and how they affected my ability to just think from day to day and act on my feet. So that was mainly the reason. And I did quit for like a good 3 months, and then I went back to it one time, and it was like I felt sick for like 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and that was like the camel that, or the whatever that broke the camel's
The
back.
straw that broke
The
the
straw
camel's
that broke
back.
the camel's back. Yeah.
Did you get sober on your own or did you have help?
I did it all on my own. Um,
Yeah, well, you strong.
I didn't have a lot of help from family or friends, so I kind of just had to make it my own battle, and it worked out
Wow.
so far.
Wow. Okay. Last question. Do you think if more people hear about personal stories on how addiction truly affects the population, do you think it could help prevent the spread of addiction or at least make people feel more comfortable to reach out and get help?
I think that it could definitely help prevent the spread of addiction, because I grew up around a lot of drug addicts, um, and I saw a lot of that. And even that being around me and seeing the effects of it, it didn't really shy me away from it because nobody ever told me not to do it and how it actually affected people. I just saw how, it made people act and feel, which on the outside just, it's like they're all happy and they're
Okay.
excited and have a lot of energy, but then you don't see the come down and how they can't take care of their children and how they go to jail in and out, and um, how some of them don't make it, in life and end up dead. Um, but I saw a lot of that growing up, and it still didn't shy me away because nobody really showed me the bad parts of it. So I think if more people advocate for um, the actual negative effects that they have, I think a lot less kids would go towards that than actually trying to get help.
Lovely. Do you have anything else that you would like to say about addiction or your personal story that could help people?
I wish I could think of something. um, no, not really.
No? Okay. Well, this is my guest. Thank you for all your input. And congratulations on almost being 1 year sober.
Thank you.
Okay. Goodbye, guys. Okay, y'all. That was my guest for the first episode of Breaking the Cycle. I really hope that you guys enjoyed listening to his story and his answers as much as I did. Um, let's give some applause for almost being a year sober. That is super cool, and it takes a very strong person to be able to do that. Um, but it is possible. Recovery is possible, and recovery is not linear either. Addiction is not easy, but you don't have to do it alone. He's doing it alone, which is amazing, but don't feel afraid or weak or anything like that to reach out and get the help that you need. There are many hotlines and recovery and treatment programs that I will talk about more in my third episode. Um, but for now, that was my guest that did not have childhood trauma, but became an addict anyways. And I know that resonates with a lot of people, sadly. And if that resonates with you, I hope that maybe he said something that clicked in your brain a little bit and you realize that you can do it too and you can recover too. Um, if not, that's okay. I have learned through my studies, my research, my personal experiences that um, an addict will only get better if they want to get better. You cannot force anybody to do anything they don't want to. Um, you can only offer your love and your support to those around you struggling with addiction, but you cannot force them into recovery unless they want to. Well, that concludes my first episode of Breaking the Cycle. Join me on the second episode of Breaking the Cycle, where I bring on a guest that suffered from childhood trauma and struggles not to fall into addiction. Stay safe out there, guys. And as always, if you need help, there will be hotlines in the description or on the screen. Please know that you are not alone and you can recover and you can get better. And the grass is always greener on the other side. Thank you guys. I really, really hope you guys enjoyed.